Grand Rising, everybody. Grand Rising, how you doing? This is your Coach Renz, and we are back live. It is a great Tuesday here in Atlanta, where I am right now. Got some family stuff going on, and then we're going to cruise and come back to Atlanta. Then hit some Tennessee and some North Carolina, Western North Carolina. But anyway, I want to welcome everybody to the live. When you come on, if you're watching this later on, then you might want to skip to the 5 minute mark because that's when we're going to get started and around that 5 minute mark. Right now, we give people a chance to come onto the show before we get started. Let those notifications hit. If you haven't hit the notification bell, but please subscribe and share the video. But hit that notification bell if you're not getting notified, or check your notification settings. I have no idea why some people get notifications, and others don't. But certainly hit the notifications. Going to have a great conversation today. Deuteronomy 21 and 22, especially 22. I know Deuteronomy 22. You want to be here for Deuteronomy 22. Deuteronomy 22. Woo! If you're a woman and you still follow this Bible, Deuteronomy 22 should make you leave this Bible. Should make you leave it, leave it, leave it. And we go ahead and get the TikTok going. But plug everything in. When you come on, let me know who you are, where you are, all those niceties. But we are going to continue to talk about this book and why we have decided to leave this book. During this study, don't know how far we're going to go into it, but we've been getting pretty far in it. Grand Rising, Debbie, how you doing? Welcome to the family. Appreciate that. I can't tell what your name is. I'm gonna need something to call you. Oh my God, because I can't read. I think that's Aramaic. Grand Rising Trauma. But we are. This is our every Tuesday. We have been reading through this book, the Bible, finding out why we have walked away from the Bible, and just strengthening our resolve in that, dissecting it, because there are a lot of people who walk away from the Bible and they have never read most of it. And there are people who believe in this book and have never read most of it. And I always find that interesting of how many people have either read or not read this book, yet they believe it or they kick it to the curb. And sometimes I understand why people kick it to the curb, because some of these stories, some of these aspects of this book are very, very disturbing. And at the end, after we finish going through the reading, we do let people come on and talk about it. So hold your peace. Now, try to stay in context of what we're talking about on any statements or questions. That would be greatly appreciated. But we are definitely breaking this book down. Deuteronomy 21 and 22 got some. Whew. If Christians were to follow this, which they are supposed to be following, because their Jesus character says that you are to keep the commandments, that he take not one thing away from this book, most of the Christians would go to jail if they did some of the things that are in Deuteronomy 21 and 22, especially 22. Especially 22. Now, we're going to get a whole bunch of additional rules and laws that they're supposed to be following, to which we know they don't. And as for women, oh my God, for women, uh, 22 should piss women off to the point where they're like, ain't no way I'm going to follow this. Grand Rising, everybody who's coming on, Grand Rising. But there's no way women should follow this. No, you're not late, Eric. We are getting ready to get started. If you are finding me for the first time, this is a Christian deconstruction page. So I don't want anybody to be confused about what we talk about here. Uh, if you find it upsetting, this is probably not a page for you to be on. All right. Um, but there was something else I was going to say. I forgot. But definitely subscribe. So we are on TikTok over here, Facebook and YouTube right here. Of course, If I state something, I try to I post it up on, if I'm answering someone's question, I post it up on the screen for Facebook and YouTube. Uh, but the Facebook and YouTube page is Coach Renz 33. For anybody who wants to be on a part of those pages, you're more than welcome to join us there. Um, so it's 5:24, 5 minutes, 24 seconds in. It's time for us to get started. And so that we can get through these readings, I'm on my brother's back porch in Georgia, so I have no idea how the lighting is going to work as it gets darker. But we're going to make it do what it do no matter what. I think there's a ring light inside. If I need to go grab that, I will at some point if it's needed. If not, we will just keep on keeping on. All right. So uh, let's go ahead and get started with this. Now, so if you weren't with it, that's the other thing. If you want to see any of the previous chapters that we've been through, then you can go to my YouTube will be the easiest way to find them. Go to my YouTube page, which is Coach Renz 33, or Why I Left Religion with Coach Renz, or Lorenzo Reed, LaRenzoreid. Click on playlists. In the playlist, you'll see the What's Wrong with the Bible, Genesis, Leviticus, Numbers, Exodus, and now we're in Deuteronomy. And we only do two chapters. All right. I need my TikTokers to keep hitting that love button so that TikTok bullies don't cause the live to go away. Because there's not y'all in particular who's on here right now, but TikTok can be some crybabies. But please like and hit the damn like button. Hit the like button. Let the algorithm know that we here. All right. So we went over 19 and 20 last week, of course, and got some rules, got some regulations, got some foolishness. But now we're going to get into some more rules and regulations, and these are some of the ones that are we're going to see some of the most quoted rules and regulations that people utilize for different agendas to which different political people have and different churches have, um, and how they utilize these and extrapolate why intermarriage shouldn't happen and all these sorts of things. So we're going to cover all of that today. All right. So we're going to start. Let's get started. So chapter 21 starts. If in the land which the Lord your God gives you to possess, anyone is found laying in an open country, and it is not known who killed him. So we have an unsolved murder. Then your elders and your judges shall come forth, and they shall measure the distance to the city which are around them that is slain. So they're going to pull out their measuring tape is the first thing they're going to do. And the elders of the city which is nearest to the slain man shall take a heifer which has never been worked, which has not pulled the yoke, and the elders of the city shall bring the heifer down to the valley with running water, which is neither plowed nor sown, and shall break the heifer's neck in the valley. So right off the bat, we finna kill some animals. This is a normal thing with this God. There's a problem. There's something going on. Let's kill an animal. Got to have some bloodshed here. And you got to have this heifer who's not ever worked. So pretty much an unblemished heifer, and to some land that nobody has ever um, worked. And you go to the nearest city, and there's no reason given for going to the nearest city. You would think it's saying go to the nearest city, and most likely that's where we're going to find the person who murdered this person, right? But no, that's not what this whole ritual over here is about. It has nothing to do with finding the murderer. And the priest, the sons of Levi shall come forward, for your Lord your God has chosen them to minister to him and to bless in the name of the Lord. And by their word, every dispute and every assault shall be settled. And all the elders of the city nearest to the slain man shall wash their hands over the heifer whose neck was broken in the valley, and they shall testify, our hands did not shed this blood, neither did our eyes see it shed. Forgive us, O Lord, thy people of Israel, whom thou hast redeemed, and set not the guilty of innocent blood in the midst of the people of Israel, but let the guilt of blood be foreign to them. So you shall purge the guilt of innocent blood from your midst when you do what is right in the sight of the Lord. That's it. You find a dead man who was slain. We're going to break an animal's neck after we measure to the closest city. We're going to perform a hand washing by some people who didn't see it being done, the Levites. And then they're going to say, Lord, the blood of this innocent lamb has been spilt. We don't know who was the guilty party, but we know that the blood of this innocent lamb is going to wash away the guilt from amongst us, wash away and purge this evil. So basically, we're going to do a magic trick ritual here to make sure so that we can, the magic trick goes out into the populace and then people won't kill people no more. This shit don't work. That don't work. Because we know that there are going to be a whole bunch of other ministers, I mean, a whole bunch of other murdering that's going on amongst these people. But finding dead bodies in the middle of a field, they go to an unplowed field with a unblemished heifer, break the animal's neck, and the blood of that animal supposedly is going to wash away the evil of someone who murdered a person and they don't know who did the murder, but it's going to wash away the evil. And they say that witchcraft is evil. That just sounded like some witchcraft if I ain't never heard it, because it has nothing to do with solving the murder. The family is grieving. The populace is, there's a murderer that's running around in the population, and to satisfy the land so that the land does not become desecrated and the people, we just gonna perform this magical ritual by killing a heifer and washing our hands. Makes no sense whatsoever. This is straight up witchcraft. Same, you'll find other, when other cultures do things like this, they call it witchcraft, but it's not witchcraft to these people because it's for their God. So that's it. Don't care nothing about the murderer. Can't find out about the murderer. We just gonna continue into some other bullshit. It just goes into some other stuff. It just, but that we good. When you go forth to war against your enemies, and the Lord your God gives them into your hands, and you take them captive, and see among the captive a beautiful woman. See that brown-eyed girl? Hey girl, how you doing? Brown skin. All right. And you have desire for her, and would take her for yourself as a wife, then you shall bring her home to your house, and she shall shave her head and pare her nails, and she shall put off her captive garb, and shall remain in your house and remain in your house and bewail her father and mother a full month. After that, you may go to her and be her husband, and she shall be your wife. Then, if you do not delight in her, you shall let her go where she will, but you shall not sell her for money. You shall not treat her as a slave, since you have humiliated her. I think the humiliation happened earlier. You've already humiliated her. Basically, now I've been in combat, okay? And at no point in the combat did I look over and be like, hey, that Kuwaiti girl over there look good. Because I was in Desert Storm, the first one. That Kuwaiti girl looked good. Or when I was down in Sudan, oh, that girl right there looked like she just walked about 300 miles, from Rwanda. She pretty fine. At no point in combat am I, oh, she looked good. But obviously, this was something that they did. Once they conquered a town or in the midst of the battle, at some point, he saw a good looking woman and he said, I want that one. And taking her as a captive slave wife, first he got to shave her head, so cut all the hair off her head, pare her nails, which is, go see Ling Ling and get your nails did. Go get your nails done. Do all that stuff. Take off her slave guard, which is meaning basically the nation that she is coming from. Take off those clothes, and then remain in the house of her father and her mother for a full month. And then after that, he can go and be her husband. To which back then, to become a husband and wife, all it is you have sex with him. That's it. There's no marriage certificate, nothing. Great to see you too, Christopher. There's none of that. None of that. We just going you have sex with her, and then if you find out that she is not pleasing to you, because the courtship was simply I saw her in the midst of the battle or post battle, and I thought she was fine. So this is purely on based on looks, nothing about the character of the woman, because we know this Bible does not care for women. And then we're gonna make her my slave wife because I won her in battle. Now, if I don't like her after I not got her poom poom, and culturally, cultural context of this is that, by the way, I produced 3 videos right before I started this. So after this video, y'all go watch all the 3 videos I posted. But anyway, so and like and share them. After you have the cultural context of this is that uh, after you've had sex with a woman and she's become your wife, literally, especially in the New Testament, it says it specifically, a woman who has been divorced is no you. If you marry her, you are committing adultery, right? So basically, this is all downhill for the woman. You marry this man. This man marries you, forces you to marry him by having sex with you. If he don't like your pum pum, he don't like the way you cook. He don't like the way you suck your teeth or you smack or whatever reason he don't like you. Then you got to let her go wherever she want to go. She want to leave, go back to her family, whatever. You got to let her go, right? But you can't sell her as a slave because you've humiliated her, and you've humiliated her because you had sex with her, and now no other man can have her nor want her. So the viability of a woman is based on, in this instance, on the virginity of her pum pum, because it doesn't matter how she cooks now. It doesn't matter what her eating habits are, her cleaning habits. It doesn't. None of those things matter. Her character, her personality, none of those things matter. The only thing that matters is the fact that you humiliated her by having sex with her. You cut her hair off, but that grows back. But you've done these things and you don't like her. And I don't know if uh, war captured Pum Pum would be any good. I mean, ladies, y'all let me know. If you just watch your family, your friends, your community get beat down in a battle, and then some man snatches you up as war booty, literally, but also the term booty from spoils of war, and then a month after he's captured you, he comes to want to get your poom poom. I don't think you're going to be all that into it. I'm quite positive that most of the ladies on here would probably say that he finna get some dead fish poom poom. He finna get that just take it kind of poom poom. He ain't getting no all up into you kind of poom poom. This man, you just watched him kill your brother, your uncle, your cousin, your nephew, your next door neighbor, and now you're supposed to give him your poom poom. I'm a man, and if some people came and whooped our butts, kicked America's butt, and now here's this woman who just says, "We've kicked your butt. You're enslaved to me, and I'm going. You got to marry me, and I'm gonna take your ping ping." I'm not gonna be into it. I probably had some struggle, you know, because I got this playing in my mind. You just killed my brothers, my sisters, my cousins, you blew up our town. I'm doing Jermaine. Just hit, like Trauma said, hit it and quit it at its finest. I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I don't know how women think, but I think I know women well enough that no woman would be partial to this. That 99.999% of women would not be partial to this. But there it is. You just got to go ahead and take it. And that was conquest back in the day in ancient times. We have things like the Geneva Convention. They didn't have that. What they had was, if I won the battle, I get to take you. I get to do whatever I want to your people. And this is how they treated women, in that time frame. So it's messed up how they would do it. All right. Grand Rising Michael. Let's continue because it's just jumping all over the place. This whole next these two chapters just jumping all over the place. There's no continuity to it. All right. So verse 15. If a man has two wives, I just want that to soak in a little bit for all the Christians who always say that marriage is between a man and a wife. Why is your Bible saying if a man has two wives, like it's okay? I mean, we know that, you know, Isaac, no, Jacob had two wives. Well, he had two regular wives, his two first cousins, and then he had two slave wives. We know that Solomon had a bunch of wives. We know David had multiple wives. He had all of Saul's wives plus his new wives, and plus then Bathsheba. Uh, we know throughout this Old Testament Bible, men had multiple wives. We know that in the New Testament, it only says that pastors and deacons are the only ones who are not, well, priests and deacons are the ones who are only supposed to have one wife. Actually, the word pastor is not in the Bible at no point, right? So it starts out as if a man has two wives. So when people say that it is ungodly or it's not a godly man, that's really based on American Puritanism, Western culture. After the Romans took over, that men didn't have multiple wives. Most societies had polygamy. And so that if somebody said, I want a traditional marriage, a true traditional marriage based on the Bible, a man can have multiple wives. Sorry, ladies, y'all don't get to have multiple husbands. So, you know. But yes, Eric, their God was a chauvinist. But let me go ahead and read this part. Yep. Job had more than one wife. I don't remember Job having more than one wife. Job, I don't, is that in that story? I'm gonna have to go and look at that one. I don't remember Job having more than one. But we know it was a lot of them jokers had more than one wife. All right. So to continue, if a man has two wives, the one loved and the other disliked. So I got two wives and I like one, but I don't like the other. And they have borne him children, both the loved and the disliked. And if the firstborn son of hers that is disliked, I mean, and if the firstborn son is hers that is disliked, then on the day when he is assigned his possessions as an inheritance to his sons, he may not treat the son of the loved one as the firstborn in preference to the son of the disliked, who is the firstborn. But he shall acknowledge the firstborn, the son of the disliked, by giving him double portion of all that he has, for he is the first issue of his strength. The right of the firstborn is his. It's a good thing this is written after Genesis, isn't it? Because we know that is not what Abraham did. Abraham had two wives, his slave wife Hagar, and then he had his um, Israelite wife, half sister Sarah. We know that Abraham didn't give Ishmael pretty much a damn thing, sent them out into the wilderness and like, bye. This God supposedly came down and gave him an oasis and a well, and then they were able to survive. And then Ishmael later comes back when Abraham is dead to be present at his funeral. But Abraham didn't give Ishmael a damn thing because he wasn't the son of the promise, but he was the first son. So it's a good thing that this is written after Genesis. Same thing for Isaac. Um, is it Isaac? Isaac? Yeah. Same thing for Isaac. Same thing for Jacob. Jacob had a whole bunch of sons, but he loved Rachel, but didn't really care too much for Leah. Didn't even want to marry her. But Leah had the first son, but the first son is not the one that Jacob gave. He didn't give double to that first son. So we know that this is something that is a later addition to this book of morality, of tradition rather, because it's it's not one of those things they retroactively put in the first part of the Bible, kind of like Leviticus talks about clean and unclean animals, and then they retroactively put that in the Noah story to say it's seven unclean and seven of every unclean animal and then two of every clean animal, when it previously just said two of all animals. But they retro that into it after because Leviticus and Genesis was written roughly around the same time frame. Deuteronomy was too, but a little bit later. But the Deuteronomy authors didn't contemplate the fact that this is not what happened with Abraham. It didn't happen with Isaac nor Jacob. So they didn't retrofit back then. As a matter of fact, Esau didn't get shit. Esau had to go and rework and do everything, but he gave his birthright away, so people can claim that one. Um, but in this instance, this is what it's saying. So if you don't like the first one, you got to get a second son, the first son, double, simply because you don't like his mama. Right? It ain't got nothing to do with the kid. You don't like his mama, so you got to give him double of everything that you have, which is interesting because if I have 50 cows and I only have 50 cows, how can I give him 100 cows? I got to go out there and make some more money. But if I go make more money, don't I got to give him double of what I just made? So it's like a never-ending story. But that's it. That's how they got to treat them. So um, you can have more than one wife according to the Bible. So for everybody who's saying that you can only have one, just anytime you're in that discussion with somebody who says you can only have one, just go on to Deuteronomy 21:15. Just satisfy that issue right there. Because obviously this God approves of multiple wives. Sorry, ladies, you don't get multiple husbands according to the Bible. So to continue, because we just jumped somewhere else. If a man has a stubborn and rebellious son who will not, y'all have heard this one, haven't you? Who will not obey who will not obey the voice of his father or the voice of his mother, and though they chastise him, and though they chastise him, will not give heed to them, then his father and his mother shall take hold of him and bring him out to the elders of the city at the gates of the place where he lives. And they shall say to the elders of this city, our our son is stubborn and rebellious. He has not obeyed our voice. He is a glutton and a drunkard. Then all the men of the city shall stone him to death with stones. Usually, to stone somebody to death, you got to have stones, but stone him to death with stones. So you shall purge the evil from your midst, and all of Israel shall hear and fear. I know that technically this is not child sacrifice, and I know that technically this is not abortion, but maybe this is why some Christians do think that you should be able to abort a child even after it has come out of the womb. But if you have a rebellious child, you're supposed to stone this child, take him to the elders, then y'all kill him. It's not a child sacrifice, but you're killing children. Because think about it, and in the cultural context again, when these people consider a young man a man, is in and around that age 13, 14, 15 years old. So if he was a rebellious son, not taking heed of his parents, this could be anywhere from like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And you're supposed to take this child, hey, the boy acting a fool, and he getting drunk, like Noah got drunk, like Lot got drunk, like all the people at that wedding that Jesus, who was already drunk in the Jesus character, gave him some more wine, drunk. But you're supposed to stone him for being a glutton and a drunkard, not rehabilitating, not uh, making go join the monastery, not making go be an apprentice in another village under somebody who know how to handle the kids. Nope, we got to kill him because what we're trying to create here is a bunch of drones, people who just, follow the Lord, I follow. And we're going to see that again in 22, where it's like, oh shit, people are acting like this, then you got to just stone them because we got to purge the evil. We got to get rid of the evil. You're just making drones of people by them, hey, he ain't acting, he's not a good son. So we can't let his drunkenness and his gluttony spread in the community. Like gluttony and drunkenness is a disease that you can catch like a cold. So we're just going to kill our kid. Now, is there any historical evidence of this thing ever happening? Of course not. Uh, but the fact that you had to write it down, that it was something that was worthy of writing down, could insinuate that this is what people who was writing it thought that they should do back in the old times, thought that they did in the old times, and thought that it was something that was uh, valuable or viable in their time frame. So when Deuteronomy is being penned, when written down in those in the 800, 700, 600, 500 BCE, during all that time frame that is being written, this was something that they thought, yes, we need this. You know, why we're being attacked by the Assyrians all the time is because our sons are acting stupid. God is punishing that, and we need to get that evil out. We're being conquered by the Babylonians, so we got to put this in here. So because this, I think 20, the portion of the 20s would be written during that Hezekiah time frame, that 700s to 600s time frame. Um, so why this is why we keep having to deal with these kind of people. Maybe even during the Babylonian time frame. That's why we got conquered by the Babylonians, because our sons are not acting right. Right. John, I'm not twisting it. There's nothing to twist here. They are stoning their kids. So John said, I don't have to twist it, but they're stoning their kids if their kids don't act right. That's just what it says. This is the beauty of when we read this, is that it just says what it says, right? Hold on, let me see. This. Where do you read that people? Where do you read that the people the wedding Jesus made wine for were drunk before he made more wine? I'll wait because I like to read it for myself. That is in the Matthew story. I can't tell you exactly what chapter, but if you go and just Jesus turned water into wine, you're going to get Matthew, and it'll tell you the chapter and verse. And when you read it, you will see that the people at the party were already drunk, and then his mother, Mary, pestered him into turning some water into wine. He didn't want to at first, but then he capitulated to his mom, and then he turned that water into wine. I guess he had to capitulate to mama, otherwise he might get taken to the gates and stoned. And it says the people were already drunk, which is why the man said, usually you serve your best wine and let people get drunk on the old wine, on the lesser wine. But the people were already drunk. John said, your son is 23 and living at home, not working, says he stopped looking for work. You ask him about it and he cusses you out. And so on, what do you do? You would correct that issue just like me. When we don't correct, then they become abusive. Parents have no other help that the minion. Oh, you're just joking. I got you. Basically, now a good parent would try to correct their child, try to get their child some help or whatever. But these jokers just say, I'm done. Stone this little bastard." Basically. All right, let's finish this chapter. If a man has committed a crime punished by death, and he is put to death, and you hang him on a tree, his body shall not remain all night upon the tree, but you shall bury him the same day. For a hanged man is accursed by God. Some books say cursed by God, but it's accursed by God. It means the same thing. You shall not defile the land which the Lord your God gives you for an inheritance. So I know that in the Christian story, when Jesus was hung on the cross, it's similar to hanging on a tree, on a pole. This is also why some people say Jesus was hung on a pole and not on a cross, even though the Romans more often used the cross than a pole. If they had used just a pole, they used to run that up through the spine of your back, and you gonna die pretty much almost immediately. But anyway, because when you break that spinal cord, you're done. But anyway, uh, the priest was like, "Oh, it's Passover. We got to take him down. We got to take him down, and all this sort of thing." But one of the other reasons is because of this part here, where it says that if a man is hung on a tree, then you got to take him down and bury him that same day. Because it's not because it's gruesome, not because of anything, but because it's a curse of the land. But if he's punished by death, then you got to take him down, right? Because you don't want the land to be cursed. And the land could also indicate what we're talking about is the land, meaning also the people that inhabit the land. So don't leave a dead man hanging, basically. Now we know, for all of us who are melanated in America, we know that this is not how our ancestors were treated. They would let them hang for a while. Right, Ray. And in Islam, Jesus was never crucified. Also, in some of the Gnostic Gospels, Jesus wasn't crucified. Somebody else took his place. They say his brother, twin brother, Thomas, or Barnabas took his place, and Jesus went off, had Mary Magdalene. They had a baby and moved to France. Yep, I agree, Ray. Correction should be done at an early age, or you'll regret it. All right. So that's 21. Now we're going to move into 22, and then after 22, we have our just general open conversations. Uh, but as we see in 21, there's a lot to be desired here, and I feel bad for any woman who's have to live by this book, because don't ever be conquered by somebody, because you might have become their wife. Let's see. Eric says, so what did early white Americans do to slaves? Anyone want to wonder why I believe American Christians are evil and incarnated? American Christianity, especially in during the time of slavery, was definitely one of the worst versions of Christianity ever created. And that is why I say Christianity and all religions uh, are based on the current culture. Every last one of them. No religion is still holding true to what they wrote 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 years ago. They all change based on, you know, whatever's going on in the culture. So let's go to 22. 22. If if I was the kind of person that was trying to convince people not to follow this book, and especially women, 22 is where I would go. Deuteronomy 22 is most assuredly where I would go. We're gonna hit it a couple of times in 22 why I would say that for a woman, but we got some other bullshit to go through. 22. You shall not see your brother's ox. Don't be sneaking around that corner like that. Uh, all of a sudden, Angelina walk around with some bags. Anyway, you shall not see your brother's ox or his sheep and go astray and withhold your help. For them, you shall take them back to your brother. You know what you got to do. Come on, woman. Come on, you're holding up live. You're holding up the live. Really? Silly. All right. So this is kind of cool. If you see a neighbor's ox going astray, you don't go steal it. You give it back. So okay, we might be doing some good stuff here. We might be. You got dang right, a little bit of sugar. Got to get it, man. You got to get it. Uh, so that's good. And if he is not near you, or you do not know him, you shall bring it home to your house, and it shall be with you until your brother seeks it, and you shall restore it to him. And so you shall do this with an ass, meaning a donkey. So you shall do it with his garments. So you shall do it with any lost thing of your brother, which he loses and you find. You may not withhold your help. You shall not see you shall not see your brother's ass or his ox fallen down by the way, or withhold help for them. You shall help him to lift them up again. Um, that is one of those things of the Bible that I would say is a good thing. That basically, if you see your brother has lost something and you find it, you take it back and you give it to him. If you see your brother is in a desperate situation or a struggle situation, don't just walk by. Go help your brother, right? That's what you're supposed to do. That's how you're supposed to do it. I'm gonna be. I am not trying to get into this conversation, but I'm just gonna say it. Uh, for those who know, there's a certain level of masonry where this part is taught, that those verses are taught, because it's about helping your brother. If you see your brother in any kind of distress, then you go and help your brother. I just want to throw that in there for all my anti-Masonic people so they can have something to say. But that is one of the things that we talk about at certain levels of Masonry, about helping your brother. Just starting shit personally. That's all. That's all that was. Just starting something. All right. So let me continue. 'Cause- but that is actually a good one of those. Because like I tell people, if the Bible does say something that is good, I will point out it's a good. And that was a good thing. You see your brother struggling, go help your brother. That would be a very great thing for civilization. If we all had the mindset that, hey, you know what, I'm gonna be a good Samaritan. Let me go help. If I see somebody in danger and need, let me help them. How many times somebody somebody not picked up somebody's wallet when they do those social experiments, and then they act like they didn't see the person lose the wallet or the money or whatever it is. This would be a good thing for people to follow. Yeah. So yes, with a smile, a kind word, whatever you can. Exactly. So to continue, okay, a woman shall not wear anything that pertains to a man, nor shall a man put on a woman's garment. For whosoever does these things is an abomination to the Lord your God. This one is a bit of a hard one. And let me tell you why it's a hard one. If you were born and grew up Scottish, wearing a kilt is a normal thing, right, for a man. But in America, a man wearing a skirt, it's a no-no, right? That's a woman's clothing. That's a woman's garment. And there is a difference. There is, but isn't really a difference between a kilt and a skirt. I've worn a kilt before. We were participating in this um, ceremonial event in Scotland, and we had to wear kilts. It's very refreshing. It was very refreshing. But this thing, although this is one of those things that especially those Christians who are 100% focused on homosexuality, and there's going to be another one in here, I think. This is one of those things that they harp on, right? But how cultural is this? Because there was a time frame when men wore wigs, in European cultures, and in when they colonized Africa, men judges wore wigs. There was a time frame when men wore wigs in other cultures as well. In a lot of cultures, especially in the Americas, in Africa, um, Polynesians, men wear earrings. But in American culture, of course, they try to say something about a man wearing an earring. And then I don't even know how it goes, but it's supposed to be like if a man wears an earring on his right ear and he's straight, and if his left ear he's gay, and all kinds of stuff like that. But it changes, right? It keeps changing. You know, uh, Men used to wear robes. In Saudi Arabia, men still wear robes. You can call them a dress. They pretty much they are. It is a dress. You know, but men and women wear that same thing. So where does it stop? You see what I'm saying? Where even in those days, and they wore it. It talks about when David's army got their ass whooped, and they shaved off the men's beard, but they also cut the man's garments off, his skirt. They cut his skirt off so that he only had like the top part. So his ping ping was hanging out, and that was supposed to be a disgrace to them to have their haircut, the beards cut, and their clothing cut. Right. So right, Ajib. Even in the time of David, which could have been, if realistically, archaeologically, it would have been somewhere in the between 1200 and 800 BCE. Most likely, yeah, 1200 to 900 BCE. I'm not going to give them 800. I'm going to say 900 BCE, right? Because you got to have time for Solomon in there, and so you can get to Hezekiah. But fashion has changed constantly as for what is women's clothing and what are men's clothing. You know, um, There are churches that don't allow women to wear pants because pants are men clothing, and this is what they quote. But yet, women have clothes that are made and they're pants, but it's a woman's pants. You know, every piece of clothing can be made to fit whatever category that you desire. But this is what they use for that, which is stupid, and it changes. This is what I'm saying. You can't use this book for all time because you'll be able to change it, and say, well, men wear this and women wear that, right? But that's all based on your culture. So let's continue. If you chance upon a bird's nest in any tree or on the ground, with the young ones or eggs in, and the mother sitting on the young and the or upon the eggs, you shall not take the mother with the young. You shall let the mother go, but the young you may take for yourself, that it may go well with you, and that you may live long. Now, a lot of people like to look at this one as more of a metaphor, that you don't kill the mother and the child. You let the mother go so the mother can still produce more, and you want that anyway, because if you're looking at agrarian people, you're going to run out of food if you kill all the birds, the mama birds, and all the babies, because now you're going to run out of chickens, right? So so it's kind of like, don't kill a woman and her kids, kill the kids, but let the woman live so that you can continue. And we see this throughout this book, where it's kill all the men, kill all the women who's known a man, kill all the young boys, but keep the young girls as virgins so you can have some more babies. But there's many there, but I've never heard a pastor preach on this one. I've only just looked at it from what, scholastically, but it's okay. It's good agriculture. It's good preservation of nature. You gonna need the eggs, but don't kill the mothers off so that you can continue to have some more eggs. So, that one's okay. Uh, so to continue, when you build a new house, you shall make a parapet for your roof, that you may not bring the guilt of blood upon your house if anyone falls from it. Yeah, some of y'all might be scratching your head on this one. So let me break. Oftentimes, back then in that culture, in that place, their roofs were flat. All right. So if you ever go to Israel and you can find some of the ancient homes that were built even during the Roman times and the Greek times, and even further back, it's very hard to find some that were further back that are fully intact like this. But you can find some during the Roman times that are still fully intact. Oftentimes, the roofs were flat roofs, so they would build, you know, a wall around the top of the roof so that no one could just fall off the roof. And then that way, you didn't create a situation of liability that somebody fell off your roof, because uh, during certain times of the day, depending on the time of the year, you spent a lot of time on your roof. Many ancient people back then in that area cooked on their roof. So if you were cooking, you got some guests over, you might cook on your roof. You eat on your roof. You know, the interior of the house is hot as hell during the summertime, so you might be on top of your roof. And in the evening when it's hot, you might be on top of your roof. So this was kind of like the insurance. This is Allstate. This is Geico. This is God Geico, the lizard, making sure that you're not liable for someone's death. Now, it is interesting, if you've ever read the infancy gospel of Thomas, it talks about how Jesus and another little boy was on top of the roof. Jesus pushed his little ass off the roof, and the boy died. And of course, everybody was pissed and mad because you're supposed to build a parapet because you're liable for it. But then Jesus made the boy come back to life, and so everything was all right. Um, but yeah, so they build a parapet, safety. I know trauma says seems like that would be worse, but yeah, now you got to have that. You've been on a rooftop where you can lean over. They got a banister around it. You can't have people falling off the roof, man. Yeah, that's good. God, the architect, right there. Uh, Jimmy's oh, good journey and good vibrations. I have a question pertaining to to marriage and chastity. chastising biblically, no rod sparing, and your perspective on such matters. I need a more detailed question. I don't know exact because that's a big, open, wide open question, but formulate it up. Let me get to the end of this and ask it again. But I need more details in your question. Like, what about marriage? What about chastising? Should you beat your kids, that sort of thing? And what aspect of marriage? Right. Leslie Ann said that when people say that Jesus is sinless, yeah, we're just going to conveniently overlook the fact that he killed a child and then brought the child back to life, and it's all good. And according to the empty gospel of Thomas, he did. Now, of course, they declare that book is heretical and is not authoritative. So most Christians don't even know about no. Most Christians don't even know about that book, and then I would wager that 90% of them have never even read it. That's one of those books that only people who are truly researching this book actually go and read, because they want to read everything in this book and outside of this book that is considered to be some type of gospel. Maestro said, "Do you have a regular short video schedule? Because as you're live, I'm seeing I don't. My days are. I never know how my day is going to go because I'm like semi-retired, so I don't know how my days are going to go. I try to do the videos earlier in the day and get them out by 5 o'clock. But today we drove our 6.5 hours from Wilmington, North Carolina to Atlanta. So I knew I wasn't going to produce any videos till I got here. And that's why you are seeing video notifications for the 3 videos that I posted right before I started this live. But most of the time I don't do that. But most time, yeah, most of the time I don't do that. Most of the time I post a video and then do the live hours and hours later. But yeah, I posted those videos and then I got everything ready for the live. All right, so let's continue. Uh, where was I? Verse 9. You shall not sow your vineyards with 2 kinds of seed, lest the whole yield be forfeited to the sanctuary. The crops which you have sown, and the yield of the vineyard, you shall not plow with an ox and an ass together. You shall not wear mingled stuff, wool and linen together. You shall not make yourself tassels on the 4 corners of your cloak, with which you cover yourself. So the first part, I'm in agreement with. Literally, I'm in literal agreement with it. My father planted a orange tree and a lemon tree right next to each other, and they grew together. And those were the sourest, if that's a word, sourest oranges I've ever had in my life. It was disgusting. But basically, this is one of the reasons why you see farmers, they'll say, this is the cornfield, this is the wheat field, and this is and they only plant one thing in a field because the Bible told them to, but that's actually just good agricultural practices as well. So it's nothing really there. But this whole thing here is one of those things that Christians are used in order to say that you should not intermarry, because when you intermarry, it's not good, it's forfeiting. Um, when it says you should not plow with an ox and an ass together, basically you got 2 different animals, 2 different strength levels, 2 different abilities. One is going to carry more of a load than the other is going to carry. So you want to have balance. And so it's about balancing your life, balancing things. You can say balancing your work and your private life, however you want to say it. Um, so yeah, YouTube is behind because YouTube takes longer to post than Facebook. So you want to have balance. But the main one that you hear a lot of people, and especially in like the 50s, 60s, 40s, like today on back, especially in America, you heard this one a lot about you shall not wear mingled stuff, wool and linen together, is one of those verses that many European Christians, white American Christians, utilize to say that black and white people should not intermarry because it's mixing the race. And they would talk about mixing this linen as the reason why. Yes, we stopped at Bucky's. Um, and so this is why this book can easily be used to justify whatever agenda a person has, because that this one little verse is used to make laws against intermarriage. Hold on, what am I saying? Here you have women having kids by multiple men, which is like apples and oranges and bananas in the same tree. And that is another one of those kind of metaphors that people use about planning. Like the woman is the field, and when you have a woman having sex with multiple men, then she's going to have different babies by different people. But let's be real about it, though. In our world today, and I'm sure it happened in the past, a woman having babies by different men, not always the same situation. Not meaning that you know is this man this today and another man tomorrow and so on and so forth. But if a woman is married to a man or she's with a man and then they have a baby and then they together for some time and then they break up and then she meets another man and she's not supposed to have a baby with that man because she had a baby with the first man, that is a male chauvinistic kind of mentality that we shouldn't have today. Now, should people just be out here popping babies all over the place? No. If you can't afford it, you can't take care of them, you're not equipped to, you don't need to have babies all over the place. But it can be used as a metaphor, but it's also used taken literally. Hey, coach, why did Jesus push that man in the first place? What was the verse of that? Push what man? Are you talking about when I was talking about the infancy gospel of Thomas? I cannot tell you what verse it is in gospel infancy. I read that like 20 some odd years ago. Do I think that that ruins the family tree? No, I do not. Family is not um, blood. Family is relationships, right? Now, that's when I first think about family. Family is relationships. I got friends of mine who are my family, but I understand what you're talking about. Does that ruin the family tree? In no way it does. It ruin the family tree. Um, there are in my family alone, my personal family. There are me and my brother do not have the same father, right? But he is my brother 100%, right? He is 100% my brother. There's nothing about our family tree that has been, severed or looks that is bad or nothing. That is my brother, right? And I grew up looking at his father like an uncle. You know, everybody was still close knit to a certain degree. So, if anything, it gave me other people that I could call family. So, my brother's father then went on and married another woman, and they have kids, and those kids are like my brother cousins, depending upon the closeness, But they're like brothers. Some of them are like brothers. Some of them are like cousins. So for me, it just expanded my family. Oh, and you're saying you understand, but as far as inheritance, no, it doesn't affect that. Actually, I don't know if you was here, Thomas, but we in 21 we was talking about how if a man has two wives and he loves one but doesn't like the other one, but the other one gives him the first son, then his first son gets a double inheritance. Inheritance for a man only goes to his sons. So when my brother's father passed away, I wasn't expecting nor looking for any type of inheritance at all because that's not my father, right? But that was between him, my brother, and his brothers from his dad. So it doesn't, and depending upon the individual man, that's going to determine what kind of inheritance happens. And most of the time, whichever one he spent the most time raising is the one that he's going to give the most to. So it's a double standard brought forth by chauvinistic leaders to preserve their own lineage, and that's pretty much it. It's about a man preserving his own lineage. Um, Almost everything about a woman in this book is about men controlling their sexuality, plain and simple. I don't want you to have, you can't have sex with another man, because if you give another man, if another man's seed turns out to be the son that I thought that was my son, and then I wind up having to pay child support, and I took care of that joker, and then I give him my inheritance, and he ain't even my blood. This is why family is relationship. If I found out that my son, who's 22 years old, I think, is not my son biologically, would I be hurt? Yes. Would I be pissed? Yes. Does that change anything about him being my son? Hell no. That is my son. And when I pass on, he will get everything that he deserves to get. Although he might have to fight his sisters about my Marine Corps sword, he gonna get everything he's supposed to get. Hey coach, is it all right to repost some of your shorter videos on an atheist page for Oklahoma? By all means, share away. Now, I really don't care. You guys, I appreciate it actually. Let me be honest with you. I appreciate you sharing the videos anywhere. I do appreciate it. It helps to grow the channel. It helps bring more people of like minds together. So no. And I know you're saying that's a man, not a woman. So in this time frame that this is written, a woman doesn't have the authority to give an inheritance at all. Women don't have inheritance to give because women can't own shit at this time frame. So they have. Now, if we look at it in the modern world today, um, if you my mother raised me, my brother and sister, and she's not going to say, well, you're his kid and you're his kid, so I'm gonna give you this, I'm gonna give you that. That would be a bad parent. My mom was just like, here, this is for y'all. Actually, my mother is like, y'all figure it out. We actually just had a conversation with her about, look, lady, we need to know what you would like as far as living wills and death burials and all this kind of stuff. And she was like, what I want. It's like, look, and we didn't. As far as her stuff, I'm the kind of person I don't want that. But in today's world, the woman is going to do just like any man would do in today's world. Give it to whoever they choose to give it to. Based on their emotional attachment to that kid. If they're a good parent, they'll just distribute it evenly. Or if they're a really good parent, recognize which one of their kids are more responsible than the other kids, make that kid the ward over, and make sure he gives things out as they should be done. We know that messes up a lot of people, but no, I'm not a male chauvinist, dude. A woman can be just like a man. A woman can, of course, there are physical differences between men and women. But when it comes to something like earning money, owning land, creating an inheritance, there is absolutely nothing different from between a woman and a man. A woman can create wealth just like a man can create wealth. A woman can decide who should get that wealth just as well as a man can decide who should get that wealth. And if kid didn't want to be around his mama because she, how that sometimes that first kid starts to not like their mama because they got a new man and then they have a new baby, and the first kid gets acts an ass, and that kid acts an ass their whole life, and then the mom passed away and the mom got an inheritance. If the mama's like, I ain't giving you shit because you acting like an ass for 40 years, good. That's a wise mama. Because a man would do that. So no, there's nothing. There's absolutely nothing, no difference between a man and a woman. Uh, who she have kids by, all that kind of stuff is purely her choice. you know and there are so many different situations and circumstances within all of that situation. So basically, when you're talking about inheritance, a woman has just as much right to give to whomever she chooses. I'm not a male chauvinist, but I feel a woman's tree will be distorted by having multiple fruits. Thomas, bro, that's like a white person saying, I'm not a racist. I got some black friends. I don't know you well enough to say you are a male chauvinist. So let me be clear. I don't know you well enough to say that about you. But that statement is very chauvinistic because what you're saying, and I know people say, oh, if a woman has sex with a man and he leaves his seed in her, then she has elements of that man in her or soul ties and all this kind of stuff. You think that when you have sex with a woman that her juices don't get up in you? Her juices get up in you just like your juice get up in her. You think you're not creating connections, and I know most men can have sex with a woman and not care one, two shits about her, and there are some women who can do the same thing. Biologically, one man putting his seed in a woman, however long later, another man putting his seed in a woman, does absolutely nothing to the woman's womb. Nothing. Nothing. Not one thing. All this shit about soul ties and a man. One woman tried to tell me that when a woman has sex with a man, the essence of that man stays in that woman for 7 years. And I was like, what in the three levels of hell bullshit are you talking about? There's zero biological evidence of any of that. None whatsoever. So no, that I think you need to think about that one, and you know, and like I said, don't know everybody don't y'all jump on Thomas. I'm telling y'all right now, leave Thomas alone. But that is a chauvinistic type of mentality where men are trying to control a woman's sexuality by saying stuff like that, like it spoils her tree. If that's the case, then a man's seed is spoiled every time he put his ping ping in a different woman. All right, so let's finish this. Let's finish this. Let's get back into this one. You almost got me into the free flowing. So if y'all want to come back to that, we can. But right, I want to finish this chapter because there's some good shit in this chapter that's stupid as hell. All right. So to continue, if any man takes a wife and goes in to her and then spurns her and charges her with shameful conduct and brings an evil name upon her, saying, I took this woman. When I came near her, I did not find her. I did not find her the token of virginity. Then the father of the young woman and her mother shall take and bring out the token of her virginity to the elders of the city at the gate. And the father of the young woman shall say to the elders, I gave my daughter to this man to wife, and he spurns her. And lo, he has made shameful charges against her, saying, I did not find in your daughter the token of virginity, and yet these are the tokens of my daughter's virginity. And they shall spread the garment before the elders of the city. Then the elders of the city shall take the man and whip him, and they shall fine him 100 shekels of silver and give them to the father of the young woman, because he has brought an evil name upon a virgin of Israel, and she shall be his and she shall be his wife. He may not put her away all his days. But if the thing is true that the token of virginity were not found in the young woman, then they shall bring out the young woman to the door of her father's house, and the men of the city shall stone her with stones, because she wrongfully folly in Israel by playing the harlot in her father's house. So you shall purge this evil from the midst of you. I know many of y'all may be thinking, what the hell is a token of her virginity? How would you be able to identify whether or not a woman was a virgin? Okay, so cultural context again. In those time frames, when a man marries a woman, of course, y'all know that marrying is having sex. That's why it starts and says when he goes into her, having sex, right? Now, what they would do is spread out, the father and mother of the bride will give her a garment, a cloth, piece of cloth. She is to put that cloth under her pum pum. And then when he goes in there with his ping ping, with the shebang, uh, if her when her hymen breaks, that's the identification of her being a virgin. When her hymen breaks, there's supposed to be a spillage of blood, right? If there is blood on the garment, so after they have the sex, and she is then to take that garment and give it to her parents. So she give her daddy the bloody garment. If there is blood on it, she was a virgin. If there's no blood on it, then she was not a virgin. So this is where the husband or the guy who's saying she wasn't a virgin, because maybe he got a small ping ping and his little ping ping didn't break the hymen, or maybe his ping ping, he broke the hymen, but not enough for some blood, a whole bunch of blood to spill out enough for it to get on the garment. Whatever the situation is, or maybe she been getting it, and the hymen been broke. But if the parents bring the garments, no, he lied, then you got to beat this man. The man pays the father 100 shekels of silver, but then the girl has to stay married to this man who now don't like her, who made a false accusation about her. And then if it is true that she been getting around, then y'all take the little girl to the gates of the city and you stone her to death. Ladies, ladies, this book don't care about you. This book does not care about y'all at all. It treats y'all so bad. Because here's the thing, I have known women. I know a girl. Actually, I made a video about this like a couple of weeks ago. I made a video about this because I just realized I'm about to tell y'all the same story I said in that video. So there was a young lady that I knew back in 1990, and from 90 to 93, she was married to another guy I knew, and it was discovered that her husband had a small ping ping, right? And then years later, when they had a child, her hymen broke when she gave birth. Now, if she lived in biblical times and married that same guy, she would have never had a child because she would have been stoned to death because her hymen didn't break. And these were high school sweethearts. Yeah, yeah, they were high school sweethearts. So she was his first, and he was her first, actually, according to their story. Was he? Yeah, they were both their first, but her hymen didn't break until um, she had a baby. And you know, we were on a ship in the berthing spaces, Marine Corps. He came down to the ladder well one time, and his towel fell, and everybody was like, "What the? Like seriously, dude? That's all you working with?" So it wasn't about everybody just trying to check this dude out, but um, that's so foul the way women are treated in this sense because there's no win in this. Where's the win for the woman? Where's the liberation for the woman here? This is you can't divorce this on your think about it. If on your wedding night your new husband accuses you of being a hoe, find out that he was wrong, gets whipped, so you know he extra mad now because now I got whipped, and then got to pay your daddy 100 shekels of silver, and you still got to be married to this man. And I know it say you don't treat the woman that bad after that, but You know this dude is not about to treat this woman right. You know he finna go and do what we talked about in 21, and he finna go get him a new wife in 21:15. Not 20 the year, but first 21st chapter, verse 15. He gonna go get him a new wife, and then him gonna love that other wife more than he loved that one. Y'all know that's about to go down. About to go down at all. Thomas, if you're asking me if I believe in the Ten Commandments, I like some of the commandments, but I don't believe in them because I don't worship this God, so I can't believe in them. But some of them are good. But yeah, hey, now, bud, stay in your lane. All right, so let's continue. But y'all know, ladies, y'all know that was some bullshit. And Maestro is right on this part. He's not sure if these stonings actually happened because we don't have any documented statements of these things actually ever happening. And a lot of Christians like to bring up the fact, see, it's funny. They'll bring up the fact that, well, these were just morals that the God put out. It's not like these things happen. It's not like anybody ever did these things because we have no documentation that proves that any of these things actually happened. Okay, but you don't have any documentation that actually proves that any of your book, that almost, well, that 90% of your book never happened. You have zero other documentation of any of it happening, yet you will believe it. But on these things that you don't like about your book, and not that Maestro is one of those people, um, but you will believe undocumented stuff that you like, but then you want to disregard undocumented stuff that you don't like. And I've dealt with that with a lot of Christians before. But let's continue. Where was I? Because you got to purge that evil from amongst you of these lying ass women, according to this book. If a man is found lying with the wife of another man, both of them shall die. The man who lay with the woman and the man who lay with the woman and the woman. So you shall purge this evil from Israel. So, uh, according to this religion, anybody who's caught committing adultery, and understand what adultery was to those people back then. Adultery is a man having sex with another man's wife. Adultery is not a man having sex with an unmarried woman. A man having sex with an unmarried woman is just making her wife number two or making her his first wife. There is no, men can only commit adultery when a man has sex with another man's wife. A woman can only commit adultery when she has sex with another man and she's married. So if you're not married or the other person, if there's no marriage involved, then it's not adultery. It's either rape or you got married or you're now married. That's it. Right. But if you are caught having sex in committing adultery, according to the people of this time frame in this book, you're supposed to kill them. So when I run against people who say that, yes, I follow everything, every word of the Bible, I ask them, do you kill people who have adultery? Because who commit adultery? Because according to your book, you're supposed to kill people. Now, Jesus drew the line in the sand and said, let he who is without sin cast the first stone for a woman who had got caught committing adultery. But I always wonder, where was the dude? Why you only brought the man? Because the Pharisees and Sadducees were wrong for that. They were already wrong in the beginning of that story because they didn't bring the guy. And it clearly says you're supposed to bring the man and the woman. Both of them supposed to die. But he said, let he without sin cast the first stone. So that's their escape. That's their escape. You know. But I love bringing this one up to people who are Hebrew Israelites. But this also flies in contradiction to what the New Testament is saying. I mean, to what the Old Testament is saying. The New Testament and Old Testament are in violation of this because it's saying you kill both of them. But Jesus is saying don't kill them. You know. And he's slick. That was a slick out. I can give credit for that one. That was a slick out. So that they didn't get him all jacked up. But if he was actually the God, this is also why the Gnostics say that Jesus was worshiping and representing a different God than the God of the Old Testament, because he went against some of the things of the God of the Old Testament, which that would be one of the things that the Jesus character goes against as far as the Old Testament is concerned. Um, But if Jesus is the same God of the Old Testament, then this guy changes his mind. This God is contradicting himself. And he's either changed his mind or he contradicts himself, one of the same. But he can't change his mind because he's supposed to be the same for in the past, present, and future. So let's continue. If there is a betrothed virgin, means she's engaged, and a man meets her in the city and lies with her, he rapes her. Then you shall bring them both out to the gates of the city, and you shall stone them to death with stones. The young woman, because she did not cry for help though she was in the city, and the man, because he violated a neighbor's wife. So you shall purge the evil from your midst. Now, a lot of Christians try to say that no, this wasn't rape. This is a man who, finessed this woman. But if he finessed her, why is there an expectation that she should cry out if she wanted to save her life? The only time a woman, other than ecstasy, cries out during intimacy is because she's being raped. But they're not taking into consideration the psychology of people. Um, I have talked to many women who have been the victim of this, and there's a decent portion of them who go into a state of shock and they don't say anything because they're in a state of shock. So this being the bar of whether or not they cry out is horrible, because no woman deserves to be violated regardless if she screams or if she doesn't scream. But it's if they're in the city and that happens, then they're both are to be stoned because she didn't cry out, because he's violated the neighbor's wife. And we understand that the violation is not so much about the woman's personal agency. It's about the fact that now this man has violated another man's property. This is really about men's property and not about the agency of a woman, right? So that's some straight up bullshit. And then it continues though, but it gives you a different one. But if in open country a man meets a young woman who has been betrothed and the man seizes her and lies with her, then only the man who lay with her shall die. But the young woman, you shall do nothing. In the young woman there is no offense punishable by death. For this case, it's like that of a man attacking and murdering his neighbor, because he came upon him in open country, and though the betrothed young woman cries for help, there was no one to rescue her. So again, when they say this is not about rape, this is 100% about rape, right? So, um, nah. And this is when a woman is, and this is only when a woman is betrothed to another man. So she's engaged to another man, right? Plain and simple. Um, because that woman, even before the marriage ceremony happens, she is already considered to a certain degree that man's property. I mean, she's still the property of her father, but she's also considered to be that man's property because he's going to be the one to marry her. But now you messed up his merchandise. You soiled the merchandise. You spoiled it. But what if the woman is not married? Well, let's talk about this one. If a man meets a virgin who is not betrothed and seizes her and lies with her, and they are found, then the man who lay with her shall give to the father of the young woman 50 shekels of silver, and she shall be his wife because he has violated her, and he may not put her away in all his days. This is the big one that they try to say, oh, this is talking about fornication. If you actually research fornication goes back to the idea of grown men having sex with young boys. It has absolutely nothing to do with premarital sex. If you have sex with somebody, that's you married. That's marriage. All right. It ain't the ceremony. It ain't the piece of paper. It's the sex. All right. You're married now, according to this book. So in this case, and it's not they were, both engaging in it. He said, and seizes her and lies with her. Seizes her, snatch her up. This is essay in this woman. which was the title, the subtitle of this whole video on TikTok and YouTube and Facebook. But the worst part, well, I mean, that part is already horrific. Let me not say that's the worst part. The worst part is her losing her agency. The second worst part is the fact that all this man has to do is pay the daddy 50 shekels of silver to avoid death. And then she has to marry this dude, and he has, and for all his days, that's his wife. He can go get another wife too. He can go get another wife. But for the rest of her life, the rest of his life, she got to be married to this man. This man who saw you walking on a Saturday afternoon, snatched you up, took advantage of you, got caught. Then you got to marry him after he pay off your daddy some hush money. If that ain't all the bullshit that should make a woman say, hell no, I'm not following this book. Look how it treats women. When I did a video a year or so ago, a couple years ago, and I said, and then the video was titled God Hates Women, and I said this was part of it. People were like, that doesn't mean God hates women. Look at how he's treating a woman. If this ain't woman hate, I don't know what it is. What else can you call it? And Thomas, you're saying this still happens in Africa. I'm going to have to say prove it, because I've never heard of this happening in Africa. People being, arranged marriages, sure. Africa, India, I know that still happens. But this part, paying off a father, bride prices, I know that bride prices still happen, right? I know they still do bride prices in some places. You was there? Okay. Um, you know what? My nephew's getting married to a woman from Zambia Saturday. I'm gonna figure out a way to bring this up to somebody in their family, because I cannot believe that in today's world there are people who are forcing their daughters to marry their essayists. That's hard for me to take. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. That's just hard. With like, what father would force his daughter in today's world to marry their essayists? Now, I know that sort of thing did happen in the 70s, the 60s, 50s, 40s, and on here in America. I do know it happened back then. I'm talking about today. That's hard. I know bride prices is still a thing, right? I understand bride prices are still a thing, especially in some of the more agrarian countries that are still kind of agrarian. I know bride prices are still a thing, and arranged marriage is still a thing. I'm talking about a man rapes your daughter, and then uh, you force your daughter to marry her rapist. That's what I'm talking about. That part is what I'm having a struggle with. That's what I'm having a problem with. And then the last verse in this one is, a man shall not take his father's wife, nor shall he uncover her who is his father's. Yeah, that one is pretty good. You shouldn't have sex with your mama or your stepmama. That's not a good thing. I'm with that one. Don't have sex with your mama or your stepmama. That kind of nasty, especially with the mama part, but not the, you know. Okay, Thomas, you're talking about buying a wife, the purchasing of a wife. Yeah, that still happens. You can get your Asian wife, and for some reason I don't know if y'all have seen this lately, but on YouTube when I'm just watching videos, I keep getting this advertisement talking about some, hey, American men, come get these Ukrainian women and these Scandinavian women and all this kind of stuff. I keep getting these advertisements for, dating and marrying these Scandinavian and Ukrainian women. So I do know that sort of thing still goes on, right? Um, that, but I'm talking about the making her marry her rapist part, that part. And I hope that's what you mean by when you're saying that's different. With it. So that's back then, Coach. Men in Africa who rape are seen as trash and persecuted. Right. That's been my understanding of in Africa. If you man who rapes women are persecuted, a lot of them are castrated. You know, and no, I can tell you straight up. As far as in the '90s, when the Middle East was part of my territory that I dealt with in the Marine Corps, if a Middle Eastern man is caught raping a woman, they cut his shit off. Yeah, they cut it off. Pow. To me, that's a great deterrent. That is an amazing deterrent. We need to have some of that here in America. Have some of that here in America. I would that I am not against that. I would make every man who is now you got to be, and I understand there are a lot of false claims when it comes to it, which I think is dreadful because that hurts women who legitimately are affected by that situation. But when it is, we got technology today. When it has been determined through DNA and all that stuff that a man has done that, cut that down, cut the ping ping off, balls too, cut it all off, make that bastard into a unit. We got to make sure because we know our justice system here in America. There's our justice here in America is not that great, you know. You know, because people can get accused of stuff and it not be legit. You I remember I was catfished once, sort of, kind of catfish, but it was online catfishing, and this was back 98, 99, and found out that I was being catfished. Little girl was putting her sister's picture up, thought that's who I was talking to, and then found out she was 15, and I was like, hell no, get the fuck off, turn that shit off, done with this and everything. And then about 3 months later, I get this, I got this information. I forgot. Well, the military told me that I was being accused of being with this young lady, and of course I laughed at it. But I had to go through the process of showing. Thankfully, she lived in a whole other city, in a thousand plus miles away. I'd never been to that city in my entire life, so it was like, okay, this little girl lying because she mad. So I know people can get falsely accused of things, and they automatically assume that I had did it. And I was like, no, I've never been to that city. No. And what was even more perfect is that the time frame that I was accused of being there, I had orders that showed that I had went somewhere else. So there's no possibility for me to be there during that time frame. But so I know people can get falsely accused. So that's why I say we got to make sure that the person is legit. And then if they are, cut the damn thing off. Cut it off. What Maestro say? You're gonna pay for a wife either way. The wedding costs money, the ring costs money, and then it's your duty to provide and protect. Why not pay a bride price and have a woman no other man had? Yeah, out there. I saw this video the other day where this woman was telling this man, she was like, "So you just gonna pay for some pum pum?" And he was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna pay her because I ain't been in a relationship no more. I ain't got to worry about no emotion. I ain't got to worry." He was like, "I'm done with relationships." Yeah, people wilding out on that stuff. So that's all of 21 and 22. Like I said, I knew 21, 22 is a lot. It covers a whole bunch of things. Basically, how people have utilized things like not mixing linen and stuff like that to say that people shouldn't have interracial marriages. Um, you're supposed to, your child acts up, you're supposed to kill that joker because they don't want to act right. We talked about, you know, you conquer some country, you can take their women as slaves, and if you don't like them, you can't make her a slave, but then you got to let her go free. But if you essay a woman and she is not married, she has to stay with her. She has to marry that man if he pays when he pays the bride price. But if a woman doesn't scream, y'all can't be in a state of shock if somebody essay you. You got to be able to scream. If you can't scream, then you're guilty because you must have wanted it to happen. You know, kind of like how for a while they were saying that if a man is essayed but he gets an erection, then he must have wanted it, so therefore he wasn't essayed. I don't know if y'all ever heard that before, but that was like a real thing up until like, I think the last time I heard that was probably early 2000s, but that was a real thing. So if a woman don't scream for help, she must have wanted it. But if she in the countryside, nobody can hear her, then she's not liable for it. These were the rules that these people had, and some people still try to utilize them today. But these are some horrible rules. There is no instance whatsoever if a person is uh, sexually assaulted that they should be punished for it. Ever, never, never. Now, I will say if a person makes a false claim and it's determined to be false, that, that they should pay for it. They should pay for it. I will say that part. But this book truly just, I haven't, maybe I didn't see it. Uh, I really want to know, for women who have read what we just went over, especially in chapter 22, would that in itself be enough for you to like at least look at this book with a little, oh hell no, or is that enough to make you be like, oh no, this book just treating women like trash, and how am I supposed to love a God that treats women like trash? Right? I'm really curious because I didn't get to see a lot of the comments during that whole portion, but I'm really curious what women think about it. And what do you women think about bride prices? Like, should a father just be able to sell you off? Like, I do. Some of these cultures still in the modern day, they do have a courtship period of time where the couple does get a chance to know each other and that sort of thing. But there's still the pressure that they have to marry. Like I've I know some people from India who they've been married to their spouse for 10, 15 years, and they were an arranged marriage. They grew to love each other, but it was an arranged marriage. And they explained to me how they went through like a year of courtship where they had dates and all these sort of things. But there was always this pressure that they had to marry this person no matter what. You know. Uh, and I know some African people who went through the same thing, but there was this courtship time frame. Cat that says, stay away from this book. It's all BS. Yeah. Now, Prima, you say I'm poisoning the well as usual. Were you here for what we just went read? Just curious. Were you here? Because how can anybody say that I am poisoning the well when the book clearly says that if a woman is essayed by another man and she's not betrothed to another man, that all he got to do is pay the bride price after getting whipped, and then she got to marry him, and that's good for the woman. I actually had a dude that tried to say that, oh, they were trying to keep that was for societal control so that, they wouldn't have these women out here and nobody would marry them because they've been SAs. So they had to make her marry him because that's the only man that can now marry her. That is, if that was true, then there are millions of women who have been SA'd and they have gone on to have productive relationships and get married to somebody else. So it doesn't, if it didn't hold up, if it doesn't hold up today, how does it hold up back then? It doesn't, it shouldn't, it couldn't. This guy was unwilling to teach man how to truly be moral. That's the thing. When they say stuff like that, well, they had to do it back then because this, because they had God had to grow man into higher morality. We are no different in our moral capabilities today than people were back then. So that is a line of crock of shit, basically, to say that. This God, if he was trying to get man into the right mindset, could have just said, hey, nobody essay anybody. If a man does essay a woman, bam, dude, you dead. You dead. Or I'm cutting off your ping ping and your balls. And according to this book, you cut a man's ping ping or balls off, according to the Old Testament, he can't go to heaven. He can't enter the assembly of God. In the New Testament, it says that if a man who got his stuff cut off can. So contradiction there. Just did a video about that like 2 days ago. Right. The Bible is poison of the mind. Right. They always try to take the Bible and try to make it make sense. The Bible is written by, yep, exactly, Penny. Written for men by men and about men. Right. It's all about. Can y'all hear? Can y'all hear that in the background? Let me know if Angelina's little party that she's having in there is loud and y'all can hear it. Yeah, Thomas, we talked about that. It does not take 7 years for your body to release a person from your soul. Let me tell you something. I've been with women, dated them, married them, and it took me all of a good decision to be have them out of my soul. It doesn't take 7 years. There's no biological or neurological evidence of that. That is some bull. And one person who tried to tell me that was a nurse, and I was like, "You a nurse? You should know better." Look, look. I asked Prima about the subject matter to which we just talked about. Even gave a little rundown over it, and that's all they got to say. Doing the same thing again, misquoting the scripture. I love that y'all can't say anything about your book. Y'all always want to attack me personally, but you cannot defend this book. That is what's so funny to me. That is the only reason I entertain y'all even a little bit, is because you demonstrate consistently how you cannot defend this book, and so you try to attack me personally. That is very funny. You can hear them. Y'all can hear the music in the background. I got married 10 years ago because my church gaslighted me when I was a Christian. They told me that God was going to punish me or I was going to get left behind for shacking up. I know a lot of people who got married because of that. A lot of people got married because the church was like, oh, y'all shacking up, y'all need to get married. I remember Pastor tried to run that game, and I told him, I said, but we had sex already, so technically, based on the Bible, we already married, right? She's the only person I'm having sex with. We together decided we was going to be together, and we had sex. So technically, based on your Bible, we married. I don't need your permission. I don't need you to read a book. I don't need to pay you $300. I don't need to go to the court. I don't need to do all that. According to your book, we married. And he has to say, because there isn't anything you say after that. No, no, no. Thomas, I'm not talking about you attacking me. You actually are trying to have conversation. Okay, so I said I haven't seen many. I didn't see all the comments while I was reading, but Primal, I just asked you about the part in Deuteronomy that we just read about a girl who is not betrothed to a man being SA'd, and then that man getting whipped and paying some silver, and then that girl got to marry that man, and how immoral that whole situation is, and how you taking away the woman's agency. You're saying I'm trying to poison the well, misquoting scripture, but that's exactly what it said. shit to say about that. Come on, man. Chirp up. Don't try to claim some previous writings. Let's talk about what I just said, what we just read. Yeah, that happens. He say I know a few females who got married to men that didn't want to, but did because they got pregnant. And there's a lot of forced marriages throughout time where a woman got pregnant and they forced them to get married. Right. Brandon said he's been with his girlfriend for 17 years. That's your wife. He's been with his wife for 17 years. I don't need the American government to tell me that we aren't married. Exactly. You don't. If you need the government to tell you that you're married, then I really have to question, are you truly married to that person when you have to have a piece of paper? You know, um, are there situations where I'll be willing to give a woman a piece of paper based on certain aspects? Of course. Um, but do I feel like the piece of paper is a necessity? Hell no. Hell no. Why do people think God is so obsessed with the penis? Do you believe God has one? And if so, what does he do with it? This God is obsessed with the penis because it's written by dudes. It's written by men. So men are their penis out and controlling a woman at these when they wrote this book. So that's why, and that's what they're doing with it. I've been refuting all your shorts. I will respond. I will respond with scripture. I don't want you. Your scripture means nothing. I'm talking about one specific scripture that we just read. We just went over it. You don't. If that can't stand on its own, it's not worth being there. It's not worth reading. That's another thing that kills me about these people who believe in this book. If your scripture, what we just went over in Deuteronomy, cannot stand on its own and it has to have backup, then it is not worth standing. And here's why: because the Bible as a whole book was not written at the same time, and it's not a whole book; it's a whole bunch of books. So each one of these books were supposed to be designed to be able to stand on their own. If you need other parts, then it's invalid. So it stands on its own. And if you send something that's different, you're writing a contradiction. And nobody's asking for other scriptures, for other parts of your book. Just write what you write. She gonna get me demonetized. She playing all that in the background. Wait a minute, let me see what this question is. Do you know off the top of your head who the Jew Jesus Christ God said he take to heaven on his return first? Um, Basically, it's supposed to be this 144,000 are supposed to, from my understanding, it's supposed to be the first ones that are taken. I'm trying, y'all writing a lot at the same time. You can sign your rights away on your kids and they steal your kids. Yeah, you can. They steal my kids, no matter what. We're under the rule of a thousand, we're under a 1,000 year rule of the fallen angels, not the good ones. Where do you get that from? Where do you get that from? According to according to the Bible, the fallen angels should have been washed away with the flood because those were the watchers, the fallen angels who had sex with the women. If they weren't, they're supposed to be chained up with this Satan character. So where do you get that? Where's that idea come from? Where do you get the idea that it was written by a homosexual? Are you saying that because King James was? And if a man, I don't believe men can be bisexual. You just if you like men, but King James didn't write it. He did a translation. Where do you get the idea that the Bible was written by homosexuals? Because one, nobody even knows who wrote any of the Bible, period, for the most part. Nobody knows who wrote it. So to be able to say, to make that kind of a claim, you have to know who wrote it and then be able to know those people. But again, King James, it doesn't matter. He wrote he authorized a translation of. That didn't mean he wrote it, because they utilized the Vulgate, the Septuagint, and all these other books to create his translation. He didn't write it. There's a difference between writing something and translating something. Now, were there things added, omitted? Sure, but can't get down with that. Hold on, just sign up. All right. Coach, I'm glad I found your channel. I learned a lot of information from you. It was easy walking away from religion, but it's good to find people. And that's what people in the world who are like mine. That's one of the main reasons why I do this, because it helps connect a bunch of us of like mind. So I'm glad you're here. Ma'am, can you turn that down some? You open the door. Yes, dear. Can you turn that down some? Because we can hear it on here and it might cause it to be demonetized and canceled. Thank you. Sure. Appreciate it. Yeah, you're great. Yeah. Awesome. Great. Oh my God. Yeah. See what I got to deal with. Why did my camera go blurry? That's weird. Uh, okay, so you said Constantine. Yes, please. Thank you. Hold on for a second. I was camera. Let me turn it off. I don't know why this camera looks blurry to me. Constantine didn't write it either. Uh, most of the books of the Bible were written prior to Constantine even being born. Why is the camera blurry? Hold on for a second. Okay, it seemed like it wanted to. There we go. Yeah, she in there cooking, and when she gets to cooking, the music is loud. If you want to see some of the things that she has cooked, then go to our page, Eat, Sip, and Smoke Travels, which is also where you're going to see when we go on this cruise this on Sunday, Monday. We're going on a cruise. Yeah, Monday. Still gonna do the lives. I'm gonna figure out how to do it from the boat. All right. So Constantine didn't write it, so you can't say, "Oh, Constantine was gay." And you gotta understand, Romans, they weird. But so nobody knows who wrote them. Exact. Nobody can claim this person wrote this or that person wrote this. They can they think Paul wrote these epistles. They think that these were written by the other apostles or people who knew the apostle. They, even though they know it wasn't. They think that these books, like the Pentateuch, was not written by Moses. They think they attribute it to him, but he didn't write this shit. So you don't know who wrote it, so you can't claim it. And Greeks and Romans are weird in a sense. They didn't look okay. So if a man, they accepted bisexuality of men and women as just, and they thought, and you could still be just considered a robust man even if you had gay sex. They didn't think about it in the same way we do. Uh, when I look at them, I try to get into the mindset of how they looked at their society. You know, Either way, a person being gay or not doesn't speak, as far as I'm concerned, to the morality of the person, because I know some gay men and women that have higher moral standards than some straight men and women that I know. I know some gay men and women who are more loyal to their mate than some straight folks who are more fair, who are more charitable, who are more, they're better human beings than some straight folks. So that's the stereotypical thing. That's just like saying that um, black people rob everybody. If you see a black man, all he does is he's a sex crazed maniac and he just want to rape every woman that he sees. That's bullshit. We know that's bullshit. You wouldn't accept that. So I cannot accept that. Oh, it was written by gay men. That has absolutely zero to do with their morality. That's just talking about who they are attracted to. Nothing to do with their morality at all. Because I guarantee there are some people out there who have done some great things for the humanity's sake, and they might like. It might be a woman who likes other women. It might be a dude who likes other dudes, and they're more moral than a whole bunch of these jokers who are straight. Look at Congress, a whole bunch of jacked up people, and and most of them are straight. So I don't go for that. And especially, honestly, if you're a person of color, you should not be accepting of that. I'm not saying that I'm going to go and champion different people causes or anything like that because I'm black. But as a black man, what I'm never going to do is generalize a whole group of people into one category because I've been treated that way. I don't even got to say my ancestors have been treated that way. I've been treated that way. So I would never do that. Especially when I was in IT. When I was in IT, I was a fucking leper. They was like, "Oh, you black now?" They get my resume. I come in, I show up for the interview. They look at me and be like, "Nah, this can't be you. There's no way a black man has all these certifications." So nah, I'm about to make Penny mad. The Ethiopian Bible is the oldest Bible, oldest known Bible, and has over 80 books. The one they use now is 66 books. What happened to the rest? What do the Bible thumpers think about that? Think about this. Um, so there is not so much of what happened to the rest. The Ethiopian situation is very different, very rare in a sense. Ethiopia, which became Christian during 330 in 330 in 330 CE, became Christian by the influence of the Egyptian Coptic Church. From first century up to you get to the fourth century, you had different canonizations of the Bible. Um, the Armenian Bible has more than the 66 books that are in the Bible. Who is it? I think was it Bartholomew, who was one of the first earliest canons, and it had books like the Shepherd of Hermas and the book of the Gospel of Barnabas in there. So you had you had different canons all around. The Ethiopians developed their canon based off the Coptic Church in Egypt, which had all these other books in it, and because it wasn't standardized in 330. Now, once Theodosius in 481 declared the Bible, yes, Frumentius is the one who went down to um, from the Coptic Church in Egypt down to Ethiopia and conned those people. But once the Roman Empire in 481 converted it entirely into Christianity, uh, they pretty much was dominated by one canon, which is relative to the canon that we have today. Now, understand, even in that canon, the other books that are called the Apocrypha were still part of the Bibles that was written in the 4th century, 5th century, 6th, 10th, all the way up. Even the original authorized King James Version still had the Apocrypha in it. It wasn't until the late 1800s, early 1900s that the King James Version stopped putting the Apocrypha in there because the Protestants, one, didn't want it in there, and then two, it was cheaper to publish it without the Apocrypha. So if you can find a Bible, a King James Bible that was done up in like 1913, it probably has the Apocrypha in it. So it's going to have more books. But the thing about Ethiopia is that since Ethiopia was never conquered by the Romans and then wasn't colonized by the Europeans, then they were able to maintain their own that original um, that they got from the Coptics in Egypt from 330. They was able to maintain that as their book because they were never influenced and conquered by other Mediterranean and European cultures. So that is the only reason that they still have all theirs. And the Armenian church was the actual first nation to claim Christianity as a national religion about 29 years prior to Ethiopia. And Armenia is like east of Turkey, south of Georgia, meaning Russia, Georgia, north of Syria and Iraq and all that. So it's over there, kind of Asiatic Middle East. There are so many books of this Bible that you want to have to like, how did these books make it? But you have to understand, during the time frame of the Romans, in that first, second, third, fourth century, the cultures wasn't that different from those Babylonian cultures, the Greek cultures, the Assyrians. Those cultures were all Mediterranean cultures. That's why when I look at this book, you have to recognize that this is a Mediterranean thing, and those cultures intermingled with each other tremendously. Oh, okay. Thank you, Penny. I'm glad I ain't make you mad. I ain't want to make Penny mad. I'm sorry. I was about to say something that was awful. It was awful. Because when I say I want to make Penny mad, my mind automatically went to, even though I wasn't allowed to watch it as a youth because my grandfather wouldn't let us. I watched by the time I never watched Good Times until after my grandfather passed away. So I was like 16, 17, 18 years old the first time I ever seen Good Times. And so Penny making me mad, I thought about the punishment that Penny got in Good Times. That was horrible. So just ignore the fact. But I ain't want y'all like, what are you laughing about? But ignore that. Oh, the mind wonders. So in 325, the Council of Nicaea did what? So in 325, there's only two things that the Council of Nicaea established. One, they established Christianity to be dictated by the Orthodox Christians of Rome because the Orthodox Christians of Rome were the ones who were Roman citizens. They were in the Roman army, so Constantine favored them. So Christianity was adopted under them. So let me say three things: adopted as the dominant organization under the Orthodox because Constantine wanted Christianity to be organized because Christians were fighting all over the Roman Empire as far as who is true Christians and not. The second thing they established was the Nicene Creed that dictated that Jesus and God and the Holy Spirit, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, are three in one. So the Trinity, because the Coptic Christians from Egypt, some of them, a lot of them, you had different bishops coming out of there. You had Athanasius and Arius, who were both out of Egypt. But Arius was like, nah, he was Gnostic. So he was like, nah, Jesus is different. So they established the Trinity out of the Council of Nicaea. And then the only other thing that they established is that Athanasius was to let the Roman, all the Christians in Rome, know when would they celebrate Jesus' birthday and when would they celebrate Easter, and that's it. All this stuff about they created Jesus at the Council of Nicaea, they canonized the Bible at the Council of Nicaea. None of that shit happened then. Organizing it under the Orthodox of the Romans, creating the Trinity, and determining when they would celebrate Easter and Jesus' birthday. That's it. Oh, see, Eric, you was thinking the same thing. I'm not alone in my foolishness. I'm just wondering what makes us different. Why are we able to see the truth and accept it, but others ignore the clear proof and common sense? Because they're living in based on fear. That the biggest way I can understand that is fear based. If you if you can if you believe that you are attached to this book to your afterlife, and that unless you believe in this book you're going to burn in hell forever, then you will make every mental gymnastic reason to stay with this book. But when you let go of fear, then you can walk away from it, because then you can see it for what it really is. Coach, during your discuss deconversion, sorry, what are some of the books that you read? The Bible. um, oh my gosh, dude, you talking almost 30 years ago. What was I reading 30 years ago? I was reading a lot of PhD papers from 30 years ago from different seminary schools, from the Theological Library in Cambridge. I was requesting documentation from them, from Yale, Harvard, Colgate, Carnegie Institute, Library of Congress. But I read a lot of, it wasn't so many books that I was reading as much as I was reading different archaeological papers of discoveries that were concerning that area and things of that nature. So there, I honestly can't think of a one. There was no book that was about deconstruction back then that I read. No, it was just reading PhD papers about the history, the politics, the culture, what things really meant when they wrote it back then, kind of thing. Yeah, so there weren't any books. What do you mean by God should have taken Mary then, since He made her conceive? What, taking her? Oh, taking her as His wife? No, but see, Mary was already betrothed to Joseph, so and she didn't scream, so both of them should have got killed. God and Mary should have been stoned by the elders at the gate, well, by the men of the city. Late, late, very important date. Yes, Echo, you are really late. Echo Bully. I like my late people. They funny. You'll be like, what we talking about? Be late as hell. Um, but yeah, there's see, I haven't read a lot of these books that many people have written over the last, you know, 10, 15 years. And there's really no book on deconstruction. Like I I would read what a like what I read what a PhD paper on Eusebius of Caesarea, and came to realize that Eusebius wrote two different stories according to what Constantine saw at what happened at the Battle of Mordova, at the Bridge of Mordova against Maxentius. And I was like, okay, well, why is he writing two different stories? Why did he change the story later on when they were meeting in Milan, and the Edict of Milan came out? And so I'm more like, okay, the first story had to be the actually what happened, which you ain't say shit about. You ain't see no cross in the sky. Nobody put any crosses on their shield. Jesus didn't come visit Constantine in his tent. There was none of that in the first version of what Eusebius wrote. That was later changed. And then I went to Rome, and while I was in Rome, I went to Constantine's Ark, and although you couldn't get up on it, I was able to get high up and where I can see it, and but bino into it, and I can see that there were no crosses on the shields. Jesus wasn't on there at all. Mithra was on there, and Apollo was on there, and I was like, somebody lying. So Constantine lied. So it was. I started, seeing things like that, like these stories, and so the further and further back, and then I would learn about Vespasian and Titus, and then I found out, looked at what really happened, what was going on during that time frame, and then I read Josephus's. I read Josephus's work, and then I compared the annuals of Titus compared to the Bible, and I was like, this is too similar. Like they're stealing. These things have too many similarities to be a coincidence. And then I started studying, and I was always into mythologies, and so I started studying uh, like Zoroastrianism. I started studying the Babylonian religions, the Sumerian, Akkadians, and the Canaanites, and I'm like, all this shit sounds the same. And then when you look at them archaeologically, like, oh, this shit lying. This don't match. So do you think the Cathars are still around? In my mind, I know what the Cathars are, but for some reason, I am drawing a blank. I know what the Cathars are. Can you tell me what the Cathars are to give me that little snap? I need a little click to get that going in my head. So why pastors continue to tell lies to the church? Security, job security, their own personal religious security. They have to. Literally, these pastors go to seminary school, have to take an oath that no matter what they learn in seminary school, they have to still be defenders of this faith and believe in this Bible. And then they learn what they should tell their congregations and what they should not tell their congregations. So they have to. And now for the pastors who've never been to seminary, they just regurgitating the same bullshit that every other pastor that came before them said. Whatever their interpretations, translations, they preach the same sermons about the same subject matters, never really delve into anything else. I know some pastors who I talk to at least every 3, 4 months. One of them will call me, and their struggle is they're part of this organization. And if they don't want to keep teaching this, but they have been teaching and preaching for this organization for 30 years, their financials and their retirements is all wrapped around it, and they can't. For them, they feel like they're caught, they're stuck. It's sad, but I can't be mad because he want to protect his wife and kids and keep them in the house that they in that is owned by the church, and he has no other source of income, most of them. So often I tell a lot of them, like, one of the things I've been telling all of them is, if you ever truly want to break free, you have to find another source of income, right? You're never going to be able to allow yourself to walk away, because if you know your source of income is there, you're not going to do that to your family or yourself. So find you another source of income, work that so that it can replace this. Once you replaced it, you can then be free of it. And it's sad that they stuck like that, but they are. Now, what Eric is saying is what I do recommend people today. He read the Bible, which is that's the book I read the most. I read other religious books as well, but articles. Went to the library, watched a lot of historical document. A lot of historical documentation. Documentaries are good. Just validate who the people are, and study a lot of the historical texts. And most important, is to fact check and and compile it. And it is so much easier today. Y'all got it easy today. Anybody that I've met been like, well, I deconstructed 3 years ago, 5 years ago. I'm like, you had it so damn easy. I used to have to wait like a month or 2 months or 3 months just to get the documentation that I requested. Okay. Grandfather, same thing, 75 years in the churches, seen the light, burst hat with his paycheck. Seen the light. You're probably using that damn talking text again. I can't figure out what you're saying there. Burst, seen the light, burst hat was his paycheck. The fuck? I don't know if that was a dog. My brother does live on the south side of Atlanta in a newly developed area, and they did tell me there's some coyotes out here. That sounded a little coyote-ish. Sound a little wily out there. Y'all hold on for 1 second. Baby, baby, baby. I just think I just might have heard Wiley. So I just think I might have heard Wiley Coyote. Can you bring me mine? Can you bring it? You know where it's at? Thank you. Sorry, I just think I heard Wiley out there, Wiley Coyote. So I just had to ask Angelina to bring me my little pew pew because if Wiley come walking around over here, Wiley gonna get. I don't know if y'all heard him. Oh, that was his paycheck. Yeah. So Echo. Yeah, that was his paycheck. I figured that might have been what you're saying. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. Oh, y'all heard that? Y'all heard Eric, you heard that? Thank you, baby. I want this right chimp. Uh, I'm right-handed. It need to be right chimp, right here. While it come out, shit, touch my shoe. I almost scared myself. What? I don't know. I don't know. Going back to your dance party, Renee. I know you saying he ain't gonna bother me, and I hope you're right. Cause he sounded like he might have been about. He was probably about 200 yards away. It was about the distance that he was, about 200 yards away. Let's see, the sect of Cathars that believe that we are all sexless spirits. Okay, wait a minute. Let me put this up so y'all can see it. Cathars believe that we are sexless spirits of angels trapped in material realm of this evil god. Now I know that's called Gnosticism. I didn't know that was what the Cathars believe as well. But I know there are plenty of Gnostics around. So Gnostics, Cathars, seemingly being the same thing. So yeah, I'm gonna say that. Yeah, they still around. Excuse me. I would definitely say that. I somewhat agree with that ideology that we are conscious beings that are beyond the physical form. Exactly what that is, exactly how that exists in the universe. Don't know. Is this an evil god or just some shit that people made up? Some shit that people made up. Nobody knows what's on the spiritual level. Nobody knows. We guess, we estimate based on what we know of this level, this matter plane of existence. Yeah, y'all heard that. And yeah, about 200 yards is close enough. And I'm backing my chair up a little bit because I need room. I need to get the hell back in the house room And if I ain't got enough time, pew pew room, because he like come around that corner right there. But he's out that way. I can tell that. I can tell what direction he was coming from. He's that way. Not like y'all can see what I'm pointing at, but it's woods over there. Wait, my brother get here. I'm gonna tell him, man, she got me out here. I ain't got no wood going in the fire pit out there. Cause it rained here. Cause if it hadn't rained, I had wood in the fire pit going out there right now. It's crazy. My brother has a house that he don't even know how to use. But anyway, I'm sorry. Where we at? What's the conversation? Echo said, "What kind of dogs you got?" That wasn't a dog, man. That was like a coyote. Where my brother lives, south of Atlanta, they got. Well, you could be in the suburbs of Atlanta, closer to the city, and there's still some coyotes will go running around out there. But he told me it was some coyotes out this way. All right, let's get back to it. Let's get back to it. I don't believe there is a such thing as an evil god or a good god. Sounds too much like Wizard of Oz, the good witch and the bad witch. Yeah, there is no such thing as that. Everything exists on a pole. So in the law of polarity, there is no separation between good and evil that you can identify. It will be 1,000 degrees in between. So even if there was a level of ultimate good and a level of ultimate evil, they are both existing as the same thing on the same pole. And then there are varying degrees in between. We all could be every sentient being or in the universe, and even down to the atomic sentient beings, exist on a consciousness, right? Let's say, and there are millions of degrees in between. On the morality that we all exist on, there are a million degrees in between. On the states of consciousness, millions of degrees in between. The whole thing, but it's all one and the same. So it will be impossible for there to be a separation between God and the devil. They will be one and the same, just different degrees of the same thing. Which is why I like. That's why when people ask me like, "What are you?" I'll be like, "I'm agnostic, hermetic alchemist," because that would be the best way to kind of describe it. So you put in a cat. I don't even, look, Echo. I don't know if that. Cause I think you Canadian, right? So I don't know if it's that Canadian accent, but you and Talking Tex are not being friends today. That Talking Tex is whooping your ass. Cause I don't know. So you put in a cat. I'm quite amazed that y'all can hear that. That's what I'm amazed at, that y'all can hear that. Agnostic. I think agnosticism is the like there's not enough proof of, and there's not enough proof against, but there's not enough proof of, but there is the possibility. I wouldn't rule it out completely that there is some type of intelligent designer of the universe. But my qualifications for an intelligent designer, none of these guys fit it. Hell is a real place. Repent. Prove it. Where's hell? Hell is a state of mind. There's no hell. That's just a state of mind. Even your Jesus didn't preach about the hell to which y'all believe in today. He talked about Gehenna. Gehenna is a valley. I've been there. I've been, and it's a funny thing when you go on a tour of Israel uh, and you're outside Jerusalem, they'll take you into the valley of Gehenna and they'll be like, now you've been to hell and back. But Gehenna is a valley that is where it was a trash heap. And he was actually, that was just a metaphor. The proof that I woke up this morning is proof that my mom and my daddy had sex and birthed me, and the birth went okay. That's the proof of me waking up this morning, and that I haven't died in some type of accident or situation or just poor health. Oh, you thought I told Angeline to bring in a pet? No, I told her I can't put it on this camera. I told her to bring me my pew pew, my Sig Sigma. I told her to bring my Sig Sigma. That's what I told her. I mean, what I call it, Six Sigma. This is not Six Sigma. That's a program. It's my 6 hour. I told her to bring my 6 hour. See, this is what's tripping to me about people who believe in this book. Hell is not Gehenna. That's a lie. But if you were to actually read and study your book, you'll come to realize that hell is Gehenna. That's what the Jesus talked about. In your Old Testament, they talked about Sheol. Sheol is a place where you cease to where everybody goes, and then some. And then later on, they developed the understanding of some people will ascend and be with this God, while others will just cease to exist, annihilation. It wasn't until around the first, second century that they started developing this idea of a hell because of because of the Greek influence of Hades when they were controlled by the Greeks in the second century BCE is when they started developing that. So it's more so the idea of hell is a Hellenistic thought process that was a later development and really didn't come into its fullness until like the fourth or fifth century. See, this is where like Christians don't study. People who believe in this book, rather, don't study it. So what are your thoughts on life after death? No one can prove that a life after death in the sense that we would call life exists. But what we can see is that on our plane of existence that there are different levels of consciousness. So it would stand to reason that and each one of those consciousness have a different levels of complexity, which gives it its realization of self, of agency. Our complexity of our consciousness is too complex to go into a dog, cat, rat, anything like that. So if it stays together, then we would have to exist in another state of being. But what that state of being would be determined because our mind is so powerful in creating, it would have to, and I shouldn't say creating, more of materializing, that we would materialize ourselves into whatever our strongest belief system is. Okay, since you want to be funny with it, hell is not getting okay. I'm not going to go over that 50, 11 times with you. His name is not Jesus, is Yahasha Washem Meshachak. That's not even his name. That wouldn't even have been his name. His name, if he existed, would have been Yahoo. It would have been Yahoo, Yahuwah. No, not even Yahuwah, because that's a later addition. It would have been Yahoo, would have been his name. So the Yahweh that which wrote would not have been his name either. That's some Hebrew Israelite bullshit, black folk stuff that people created. It would have been Yahoo would have been his name. It wouldn't even have been that. And you might want to understand transliteration as to how Yahoo became Yahushua, and then how Yahushua became Isus. I mean Ius, and then how Ius became Isus, and then Isus became Jesus. It's all referring to the same person, but because each language that it was translated into did not have those particular sounds within their language, so they approximated what the name would be to have the same meaning to them as to the people that they was translating it from, which is why it's called a transliteration. To give you uh, when you meet a lot of Asian people, they struggle with any word that has the W sound because they don't have that sound in their language, so it's different. You've never made a video about Satan and that, then you haven't watched all my videos. I've made plenty of videos about Satan. And I've expressed too many times how Satan or Satan means adversary in the Hebrew, in the Semitic. Let me be clear, in the Semitic languages. But when these Arcadians try to transliterate Satan from the Sumerians, in Sumeria, in the Sumerians, Satan means administrator, but for them, they made it into adversary. So its original meaning is not even that. And Satan and the devil and Lucifer and Beelzebub and the serpent, those are totally separate beings. No, not Yahoo like the email. Not, it's just pronounced that way. No, Yahoo. Shit, am I saying it wrong? Yashu. Sorry, I said Yahoo, but it's Yashu. Yashu. I had to think about how it's spelled. So it's Yashu. So Serapis. So what the Greeks did when they conquered a group of people is that they Hellenized them. Hellenization is the process of merging the Greek culture with whatever culture they just conquered. So when the Greeks conquered Egypt and the Ptolemy the Fourth gained Egypt as his area, because they had Ra, they had Horus, they had these Messiah types, and so the Greeks combined um, Ra, Apis, and somebody else to make one Messiah type deity and called him Serapis. And then when the Romans took over and Christianity came in, they merged Serapis into the Jesus story. And even though um, this bullshit right here, his name means Hail Zeus. Isus does not mean Hail Zeus. Isus, it doesn't mean that at all. It means God who saves. It doesn't mean Hail Zeus. That is some bullshit that people have taken from Zeitgeist, which Zeitgeist took it from another book that was written about a decade prior to that, and they just restating the same bullshit. It doesn't mean that at all. So let me see. What is this? I think they say that people use 10% of our brain. Actually, we use all of our brains. It's just how much of our brain we use at the exact same time cognitively is not 100%. Um, that's why I feel it's important for us to use critical thinking and waking up our consciousness and awareness to more than what you are have been taught. Now we just don't we. It would be an amazing if we could use our conscious, subconscious brain, like access all of our memories to think about everything you see, hear, touch, smell, read. All of that is in your memory engrams. Problem is we can't access it all at the same time. If we were able to access all of it at the same time, that would be an amazing thing. But we use our whole brain. See, now I just went through the whole transliteration thing, and they claim that they're a historian. But if you were a true historian, then you would understand the difference between transliteration and the J coming into existence in the 1600s is just a part of the whole transliteration of Isus and Ius into from Yashu. So you're not a historian. You're just saying shit. And I tell you what, I'll be in St. Louis in early August. I think is when me and my brother will be in St. Louis. We can have a show together. Yeah. If somebody claim, let me tell you, I'm the worst person to claim to be something, and you not be that, because I'm gonna call you out on it if you say some bullshit. Because you claiming you're a historian, you are not well versed in how history works and what is actual history. This is a very weak argument. I don't know if you're a guy or male or female. I can't tell. I ain't got my glasses. Let me see, because I don't want to. I don't want to insult you. Now I can't tell by that picture. Um, you cannot prove that your deity gave me breath. In the same way that you make that claim is the same way that an Islamic person can say that Allah gave them breath. That a person who is Indus can claim Brahma gave breath. Man, you got coyotes and shit wailing over there. How you know? Because I can hear them, and the people on here can hear them. Oh, yeah? Yeah. Okay. Country ass house. Well, it might be something out there. Yeah. Oh, boy, so you can get all the damn firewood you want. Oh, I'm gonna get some. It rains, so I'm sure it's wet. I'm gonna get it tomorrow. All right. All right. Close the door. I'll lay it down. All right. Later. Okay, you're a guy, but yeah, dude. Every religion can claim that their God is the one that gives them breath, but no religion can actually prove that their God actually literally exists. So to make the claim, it's actually a weakness of argument when you say that God exists because how did you wake up this morning? The fact that you have breath proves that God um, is alive. And how do you think the coyote howling too? You know, all these things does not facilitate your God of the gaps type of storyline here. You know, so you got to come with something better than that. Like I'm more apt. This makes more sense. The will of life, the will to life woke me up this morning because there are literally I have met people who have given up on their will to live and then they die. And then they die. Grand Rising from New Zealand. What's up, Marcus? That's where my daughter wants to live. So you don't believe in God, but you believe in dinosaurs exist. Since we have proof that dinosaurs existed on the planet through their skeletal remains and things of that nature, yeah, but you have zero proof of this God. And when you say that believe in God, I usually ask people which God, because I don't believe Brahma exists. I don't believe Allah exists. I don't believe Otamari exists. Shango don't exist. Thor don't exist. I don't believe any of those deities that people have created actually existed because you ain't got no proof that any of them existed. Less than 10. Okay. So y'all got less than 10 minutes because the lady has spoken and she not been in there making dinner. So I would not disrespect her dinner making. Oh, by the way, I'm in Atlanta right now. I'll be in Atlanta until the 19th, the morning of the 19th. Then we're gonna go down to Florida, and then we're getting on a cruise. Then I'll be back in Atlanta on the 24th. Then we'll be in Atlanta until that Monday. And then we're going to Chattanooga, Asheville, Charlotte, and then back to Wilmington. So if you're in those cities, let me know. If you're in those cities, let me know. I 100% deny that the slavery that was talked about in the Bible in Egypt with the Israelite people actually happened, because there's zero proof that there were Israelites enslaved at that level in Egypt at any time frame of their history. and the time frame that it would have happened during the Moses time frame does not add up historically with who was the Pharaoh during those time frames. No, yeah, no, it didn't happen. Yeah, and who put them there? Cataclysmic events that happen that cause the fossilization process to occur is what how the fossils got there. It has nothing to do with it. We say wives. Angelina knows this. Uh, if she was acceptable of multiple wives, I would have multiple wives. But I choose to be with her, and she does not choose that. So therefore, we do. I do not have that. But if she was acceptable of it, I certainly would. Put your money where your mouth is. um, shit, I would have to get off my phone to be able to tell you when I'm gonna the exact day. I'm only gonna be there for one day because my brother don't know how to be retired yet. So I'm only gonna be there for one day, but we can make it happen. It's not a problem, and I don't want your money, um, and you're not gonna accept. You know, this is one thing I definitely have learned. If people say that they believe in their God, you cannot argue faith. Faith is inarguable because no matter what you present to a person, they are still going to accept the dogma that they have accepted in order to maintain their belief in their faith. So you can prove and show that Yahweh is a Canaanite God that was picked up by the people who become the Israelite people. But because of faith, people will always be, nah, that don't prove it. Nah. But we'll see. We'll see. But it'll be an interesting conversation. I put it at that. That's the main thing I'm looking for. Is an interesting conversation and an interesting show. Yeah. Marcus, you late. You are super, super late. And that trip was 2 months ago, but it was great. Do I have any plans to be around Sacramento? Nah. My next long trip across country, we going to Seattle, and we don't come near Sacramento. Um, we'll see. I don't even know where the hell Sacramento is. Is Sacramento near? That's near the Bay, right? Is that near San Francisco? Because we may not be able to get San Francisco this year, but I definitely want to go to San Francisco by next year. Because every black person is not a Hebrew Israelite. That's why. Human civilizations have existed before there was ever such thing as an Israelite. I'm from Atlanta. What are my thoughts about you? What are my thoughts about UFOs? Some of them are what we have created in our societies. Others, I believe, are possibly from previous civilization that existed prior to the Younger Dryas. But I have no idea. I don't think that space is empty. I think that there are other planets with other beings, but I don't know if those beings have gotten here, unless they have some type of transportation process that they're able to fold space. But as far as linearly getting here by flying through space, yeah, no. Okay. Okay, it's near San Francisco. I know we're gonna try to get there. We might get there this year, but see if it doesn't happen until it gets cold, we damn sure ain't come to Sacramento. It's cold. I don't go nowhere. We don't go where it's cold. Yeah, there's been more and more information and evidence is showing that there were ancient civilizations that existed prior to the Younger Dryas flood, which would also be prior to the last ice age. So that will put them about 40, 50,000 years ago. And but that ice age and then the Younger Dryas flood destroyed their civilization, and we know the Earth has went through multiple extinction level type events. So, um, yeah. But anyway. You're not from far from me, Coach. I'm hearing. Oh, you in Clayco? Yeah, you down the street. So, for people who are in Atlanta, I'm having an event for Angelina for her born day. Uh, even though her born day is on the 17th, on the 18th, around 7 o'clock, we're going to be 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock, we're going to be at public. Uh, the Public House Stone Mountain. It's a cigar restaurant and bar. We're going to be there for her birthday. So if you're in the Metro Atlanta area, you're more than welcome to be invited. I will post the whole invitation thing on a short video probably tomorrow. So you guys are more than welcome to invite it. If anybody else is in the Atlanta, you are more than welcome. Like Atlantis, but I can't really say Atlantis existed. I think Plato made that shit up about Atlantis. But the Emerald Tablets does talk about Thoth of the Atlanteans. Was it, did Lemuria exist? Did Mu exist? I don't know. But we do know that there was a 400-foot sea level rise about 12,000 years ago after the Younger Dryas Ice Age. And it's proof of an ice age. There's proof of an ice age. You are a historian, sir. Okay, I have to get off here because I was told that dinner is going to be ready in like less than 10 minutes. So y'all are not going to get me fussed at. I'll tell you that right now. But like I said, if you're in the Atlanta area, hit me up in the messages or whatever. And I know there's a couple of people who I've already spoken to that, we'll be seeing while we're here. So appreciate you guys. It was a great live. I appreciate it. If you've never read those 2 chapters of Deuteronomy, I would suggest you go and read them damn things again. What do I think about the sea people? If they exist, it's a pre-civilization prior to the Younger Dryas. And what our governments tell us about those things, they're doing like a drip. Honestly, I think they're doing like a drip information drop. Instead of just letting it all hang out, it's like giving you a little bit of information at a time. I think that human civilization can handle if they're in contact with beings from another planet or beings from a previous civilization. I think that we can handle it. I don't think we'll lose our shit. A lot of religious people lose some of their shit, but I don't think as a society we lose all our shit. I think we can handle it. I know I can handle it because my happy ass be like, "Can I go with y'all?" Because these get on my nerves. The chapters of Deuteronomy that we did today, you have to start at the beginning of this video. Is chapter 21 and 22. All that shitty treatment of women. Can you repost those 2 Genesis verses? What 2? I don't know. When did we didn't talk about Genesis today. We talked about Deuteronomy 21 and 22. We didn't talk about Genesis. Time. All right. See y'all later. Always remember you have to free yourself to be yourself because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibrations. Dinner time.